just started your knitting journey, or maybe you've been wanting to splurge on yourself and you're thinking to yourself, do I need to pay for interchangeable needles? Is this something that I should be spending my money on? This is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So first things first, hi, my name is Chantal and I am the knitwear and owner of Knitatude. And I'm so excited to be able to chat about interchangeable needles because I am a big fan. So first of all, what are interchangeable needles? It's essentially needle tips that come with cords that you can screw on and off. And I find that a lot of people, especially as brand new knitters, we're always a little hesitant of being like, that's a lot of money, because it is, you are investing. And we always kind of like take a moment being like, do I need to spend that much money? But I will tell you that when you actually look at interchangeable needles in the long run, you're gonna save money really when it comes over time, because it's gonna save you money from having to go to a store to be able to get a new pair of needles every time that you pick up a new pattern. Or it's also just gonna, if your gauge doesn't go correctly that you need to get in the pattern, it's way easier to be able to just switch these needle tips out than actually having to go to the store, get a fixed needle set, go find those. And also it's like a pain in the ass to be able to like store them, and interchangeables are kind of the best bet for that. So what can you expect when you're actually getting an interchangeable needle set? First of all, the case. Second of all, a range of needle sizes depending on which ones you end up going with, because some cases have more than others. You can expect to get a bunch of cords that are going to be in different ranges of length. You're also going to get some stoppers, which are great to be able to use when you actually need to like hold on to a project. You're going to get some connectors for some like actual cables, and then you're also going to get some cable keys to be able to make sure that you lock in your actual needles. There's a few things that are going to come up as you're going through and looking at interchangeable needles, and that one of them is going to be materials. That's probably the biggest one, and it really comes to personal preference. So if you are a person who loves knitting with metal needle tips and you're like, these are my favorite, I love how like smooth they are. I find that metal is really good if you are a tight knitter, because then those stitches really slip really quickly. I do find that metal needle tips also have a tendency to be a little bit sharper on the edge, which means that if you are a lace knitter, or you are really having to dig into those stitches, metal might be up your alley. You can also go with wood. I'm personally a wood person. I think mainly because metal needles to me click, and that bothers me. But it's really up to you. I find for wood, these ones I believe are driftwood. These ones are the Licca needle set. These ones are my favorite also because they're pink and Dodoy. We love a good aesthetic. But I find that wood tends to be a little bit more grippier. So if you're a looser knitter like I am, essentially it's really nice to be able to like have something that feels like it's got a little bit more of a grip on that yarn. So if you're using things like bamboo or like maybe like a cotton that maybe doesn't like have as much grip to it, wood can be really great. But again, it's all personal preference, really kind of up to you what you kind of want. There's also plastic. These tend to be kind of more of the more budget friendly. They work well for people who are going to be looser knitters or tighter knitters. I find plastic has a tendency to be a little bit more grippy, so it really depends up to you, but it's personal preference. Like there's not like metal is better than wood or wood is better than plastic. Like it's really comes to your own personal preference. So when you're taking a look at your actual interchangeable needle set that you're looking to be able to invest in, take a look at those materials. What do you like in your hands? Do you like the click? Do you need like a sharper, pointier like edge to it? It's really up to personal preference, and there's no better one than the other than what works best for you. Okay, let's talk about cords, because not all cords are created equal. So I personally, again, really like the blush set from the Licca because I find that they have what they call swivel cords. And essentially what it means is that this fixed center right here can twist and turn. It's not as if it's fixed. I'll show you an example as I'm just throwing stuff over. This one is like fixed, like I cannot turn this. I find the advantage of the swivel cords is really helpful, just mainly because it makes your piece move around a lot easier. I also, when you're looking at interchangeable needle sets, look at how bendy and how like malleable they are. I have heard so many good things about CHEYYYY needles, which tend to be more expensive. They're metal and more on the higher end scale. I've heard that their cords are like really flexible and really nice, while others I find are not as bendy. So it is something that you may want to take a peek into if you can. Go into your local yarn store, see if you can actually like open up one of the needle sets, see how you like it. Because if you've even noticed, I'm sure as you're knitting, that there are certain ones and certain cords you're like, oh, that is so stiff. You may want to take a look into kind of that. Because again, cords are not created equal. I will say that there are certain brands that are interchangeable with others. I find that Knitter's Pride, Licka, or Likey, Knit Pro, all of those, Lantern Moon, all of those can be interchangeable with each other. So in other words, if you buy a Knitter's Pride set, you can interchange the cords with the needles of like Knit Pro or Licka, Likey. Again, I never know how to say it. If I'm correct, I think the CHEYYYY ones are proprietary, which means that you can't interchange them with other needle sets. So that might be something that you want to take a look at just in case down the road you're like, oh, I am missing this needle size. I'm gonna buy that one separately. I can still use it with my actual other cords that I've already purchased from my interchangeable needle set in another. Another thing to keep into consideration is finding out where the actual labels are on the item. Some companies will place it on the metal tip. Some of them will literally place it on the needle itself, like this one. One thing that you may want to notice, like example, these ones are my Lantern Moon ones, and you cannot tell me how pissed off I am the fact that it has literally rubbed off, and especially with how expensive these ones are. If they would have had it engraved in the actual like metal, I think that would have worked a lot better. But that is one thing that you might want to take a peek at, because oh, my anger, you don't want to spend all this money on something and all of a sudden it goes off. The Lantern Moon is super nice because I find that it's a really, really like soft and slippery wood. But the fact that this happens absolutely drives me up the wall. So make sure that you are paying attention to that, just because it can sometimes rub off. Now the part that we know that you really want to do and want to talk about is the best bang for your buck. So first of all, once you end up finding one that is like the materials that you actually want, then you're going to have to start looking at which one is the most cost effective. To me, when I was looking at buying interchangeable needles, my first thought was, what is the biggest size range that I can get of the needle sizes that I am going to use for the lowest cost? I personally found that the Licka set was my favorite. This one ends up coming from a US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter needle, to a US 17, which is a 12 millimeter needle. When I was starting to knit, essentially I was just trying to find all of the sizes that I was going to use. I'm not a very big sock knitter, so for me to be able to not get a US 2, etc., that was not my issue, because I was like, I'm never going to use those anyways. So the Licka needles, if I'm correct, they do have the swivel cords. I'm looking at my notes. They roughly retail from 90 to like 110 US for like the 5 millimeter needles. And then for the 3.5, they roughly go for about 75 US. So that might be an option. If you're looking for metal, I definitely find the Knitter's Pride probably your best bet. I got the Mindful collection. This one is definitely a lot of things. It also includes like stitch markers, multiple cords, etc. This one goes from a US 2, which is a 3 millimeter, to a US 17, which is a 12 millimeter. So tons of options. They have tons of cords that they ended up giving as well. But these ones do tend to be a little bit more on the expensive side. For these ones, oh, sorry, these are the Knit Pro. And these are roughly 150 to 175 US dollars. So it really depends on what your budget is. If you are like a splurgy splurge that you're like, I just want the best of the metal needles, the ones that I've heard the most love for is the CHEYYYY. And those ones are beloved by so many people. I have heard that the needle tips are quite pointy, so maybe that's up your alley. Other budget-friendly ones that I've heard of is going to be your Knitter's Pride. It's going to be the ones from Michaels. If you can, make sure that you're using a 50% off discount or any coupons that anyone is able to give you, because you want to be able to save as much money as possible. So it really depends on what you're looking for. I've heard that Knitter's Pride and Knit Pro have a tendency to be a little bit more in the lower budget, which, if I am correct, go from $75 US. So it really is up to you on how much money you want to spend. Also note that you can choose, and like there are certain cases that have smaller amounts of needle sizes that are going to obviously be cheaper. And with using those, the advantage is that you're not paying for as much, but only the ones that you actually want. So these are the ones that they have sent me, but it's like some smaller options, which is going to be a smaller range, but it also means that it's going to be less money. So if you're finding that you're like, I'm never going to use a US 4, or I'm never going to use a US 17, you can kind of play off of that and then see what the company actually has to offer. I also had someone ask me, being like, is there too many needle sets? Are there like ones that like, should I have more than one? And it really is up to you. I think if you are working multiple projects, whether it's going to be a sweater and you're going to be doing sleeves, hats, accessories, garments, you might want to look into getting multiple interchangeable needle sets, but it's really up to you. So I essentially hoped that gave you a little bit more of a breakdown of what to look for when you're actually looking at interchangeable needle sets. And the main thing is that it really comes down to personal preference and what works for you, whether it's metal or plastic or wood, whatever is in your budget, that is the best bet. Know that you can always start with a starter set, which is probably going to be like your Knitter's Pride, Knit Pro, and then move up towards maybe getting a higher end brand after, but do what is best for you, because that's the main thing. You got to do you. So if you like this, make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram and stuff like that. I'll put a bunch of links to all of these products that are in the caption below, and make sure that you come back to be able to go to my channel and hang out. Thanks so much for joining.